Okay, so this is how the course structure is going to be. So this is what we'll be covering over the next 2 months. And one common mistake what students do is they'll attend the first few weeks and then they suddenly stop attending classes. So what will happen because of that is there'll be always a disconnect, right? So this may sound very simple advice, but still I want to tell you because once you miss a class, understanding next class is going to become difficult. Now imagine today if you missed a class, then tomorrow when the classes get continued, you will not be able to catch up. You will not be able to understand what's happening. Then what happens? That class you will not understand. Then the day after tomorrow class you will not understand much. So it's a spillover effect. So try to attend as many classes as possible, and our classes are only from Monday to Friday. You always have the Saturday and Sunday for practice as well as to go back and revise all the topics. For example, when you talk about anything, whether it is SQL or Power BI or Power Apps, it is not really difficult or challenging to cover them in a matter of 2 weeks also. Forget about 2 months. I can even cover this in 2 weeks. But the point is there are learning limitations, right? So it is not practically possible for someone to absorb so much of information in short period of time. So obviously, having this Saturday, Sunday, practicing on your own, attending classes daily is going to help you the maximum. And there is always this mindset that, okay, because it's a morning class, some of you feel that, okay, let me wake up little late, let me skip today's class. It may sound very tempting, but at the end of the day, if you're relying only on the recordings but not attending live classes, then think about this in a serious way. What is the difference between YouTube and a live class? YouTube is full of recorded classes only, if you think about it. Even though we say YouTube is video, all these are pre-recorded, right? That's what the difference between a live class and a YouTube is. So from that perspective, attend as many classes as possible. Skip a class only if it is necessary. Otherwise, what you'll end up doing is you'll end up doing double the work. Because if you miss a class, a live class where things are interactive and all, and finally when you miss a class, what will happen is you will end up not you will not be having focus while watching a recorded lecture continuously for 1 hour. So you'll start watching the recording. Then after 15 minutes, you will feel, okay, let me take a break. Then you'll get distracted. And to complete that 1 hour video, you will take 2 hours of time, right? So whenever it is college or whenever I attend any kind of classes to learn something, I always make sure to maintain minimum 95% of attendance in my case. The reason is many people might assume that, okay, today I'll skip the class. I have a busy day. Maybe on weekend I'll catch up. Trust me, it never happens. Majority of the cases, people will think like that, but it doesn't happen. If you are attending classes regularly, you have already completed 50% of your job because remaining 50% is all about your practice. That's it. So that is something which I want to make it clear. And last time it was like the first batch. Now this is the second batch. So obviously, the syllabus got revised. So SQL, Excel, and Power Apps got added. But last time what happened was the classes got little dragged because of various reasons. But this time we are going to have a hard stop. So probably by May ending the classes will end. So there might be 1 or 2 classes which I might take on weekends depending on the requirement, but it's a hard stop, right? There won't be any extension, so that you can also plan your upskilling and everything, practice and everything accordingly. Any doubts you have, please ask the questions. Please ask the questions ASAP. So for example, if you have a doubt, feel free to interrupt me and you can ask questions. Nothing wrong with it, because if you have doubts and if you don't get them clarified, later it can become a very big challenge. So if you are having any doubts, either you can post it on the group, which we have on WhatsApp, or during the class also, you can either at the start of the class or ending of the class, or even in the middle, you can stop me and say, hey Sanjay, I do not understand this. Please, please actually explain this topic again, right? So, so, so that you will be clear about all the topics and you will not feel any lag in between, right? That is one thing. Okay. First of all, what is the importance of these topics in terms of your learning? Now, Power BI is definitely, the core of the course, you can say. This is the one where maximum coverage will be given in terms of the number of topics, duration, and everything. But why do you require these skills? I mean, Excel, SQL, Power Apps. What is the role of these particular tools? If you think about it, typically what happens is Power BI, yes, it's a good skill. It's a highly demanded skill in the market. Now, along with Power BI, definitely you need to be aware of Excel as well as SQL as well. So if you ask me, if someone has to prioritize the skills, first you need to focus on these two in terms of priority. Now, if these two skills are very important, then what's the point of having Excel and Power Apps? I'll tell you why. Whether you like it or not, whether people like it or not, Excel is something which cannot be replaced, right? So people have been telling from the last 20 years that the time of Excel is over, new tools are coming, that is coming, this is coming, but nobody could replace Excel. So at the end of the day, what happens is all the reports which are built by various organizations, they're all built on Excel. And those you will be converting to Power BI and probably to more modern tools like like Python or probably Power Apps or any other tool. But the base will always be either SQL or Excel. So from that perspective, even though nobody will ask you any interview questions or any kind of testing on Excel, in general, it is good to have Excel skills in real life, right? But purely if you talk from testing perspective, like how they test your skills and all, entire focus will be on SQL and Power BI, right? And now when it comes to Power Apps, why Power Apps is coming in the middle, you might be wondering. Very simple. Power Apps is one of the emerging skills. So Power Apps again, it's like an ocean. Every subject will be like an ocean when it comes to technology, especially. Now the role of Power Apps is instead of simply going with Excel and SQL and Power BI, having Power Apps on your profile, it will give you slight advantage. At least you will get an introduction of what is Power Apps, and perhaps Power Apps is going to help you little bit to differentiate yourself from rest of the candidates. And Power Apps is something which is increasing in demand day by day, especially over the last, I would say, last 1.5 years, I would say. And today the demand is very high for Power Apps. So having some kind of introduction, some kind of push, it will help you to at least understand what is Power Apps rather than uh, rather than not knowing about it at all. So that is how the course structure is going to be. And now when it comes to taking maximum advantage of this course, what I always suggest is even though our classes are from Monday to Friday, my humble suggestion is even on Saturday and Sunday, assume that there is a class, mentally be prepared that there is a class, and sit in front of your computer or laptop and practice, right? Technically, there are no classes, but assume mentally that even on Saturday and Sunday, you just keep a timer in front of you, maybe 60 minutes timer or something, and then you practice for 60 minutes and 60 minutes at least, so that your concepts are reinforced and you don't fall behind. Because what happens is, what you practice during the first week, by the time you come to second week, you may think you will remember everything, but if you don't practice, you'll forget. Practice is very important. If you don't practice, no matter how many classes you attend and all, you are going to forget things and again you have to relearn them. So do not stop practicing, and especially on weekends, take maximum advantage. Now, the main reason why weekends are off is for you to catch up, for you to practice. If you are not going to practice, then I'm ready to take class even on weekends also, because there is no point of having a weekend if you are not going to practice. I'm not saying that you have to practice from morning till evening. At least practice 1.5, 2 hours, Saturday and Sunday. That's it. Maybe in the early morning where you'll not go out anywhere, right? So by the time anything opens outside, also it's like 11 a.m. or 12 p.m. So before that itself, you can complete your practice and then you can start your day, go out, do whatever you want on the weekend. But don't skip practice on weekends. Very, very important. Okay, now let us get started with the most popular tool which people use, which is Excel. First of all, why Excel is included? Because generally Excel is something which many people are already familiar with, then what's the point of having Excel in the course? One thing which I generally notice with people is people are overconfident about their Excel skills, right? Especially people who have work experience. So people take Excel for granted. They say that they already know Excel. And this is something which I always keep telling that even though yes, people might think they know Excel, but Excel which was there 20 years back or even 10 years back is not the same Excel which you have today. So the modern Excel is way different compared to the traditional Excel, right? So whenever you talk about Excel, people only talk about formulas, but Excel has many components to it. Now, from data perspective, from data analytics perspective, there are a couple of things which are good to know. Power query and power pivot. Now, even though these two concepts are there in Excel, both of these concepts somewhat related to the data modeling or data cleaning, all these things, they are already covered in Power BI. So when we talk about Power BI, I'll also show you how the same things work on Excel. So for Excel, whatever we are going to spend in the first week, you don't need to spend much time on these topics. These will be covered during Power BI itself. Then what you will be learning during Excel classes are charts, pivot tables. First of all, tables. This itself is an important concept. Tables, charts, pivot tables. Then probably little bit of functions and formulas you can say. And then probably one class I'll talk about some of the latest features of Excel. Latest features in the sense, some features which are available on Office 365, which can simplify your work, I would say, to a certain extent, right? But core concepts are going to be these four. And I will explain why these concepts are important. When I go through these concepts, you'll automatically understand why these concepts are required to be covered. Okay, so let's get started. Now, first, let me start with the concept of tables. Okay. Now, what is this tables concept? So, what is a table and how to understand it better? Now, even before I cover this concept, there is always the terminology which you need to know. Now, when I talk about this terminology and all, some of you may feel this too basic, but trust me, people get confused and people take one name instead of another name and they make these mistakes very constantly, like very common mistakes people make. But still, I want to cover this basics because it is important to know. This topic, the tables topic, is important because it will change your line of thought process. It will change your thinking. Whether you learn SQL, whether you learn DAX, whether you learn any programming language in the future, it doesn't matter what you learn in the future. Whatever I'm going to cover here is going to help you even to learn things like Python and other things in data science, right? Very important. Don't skip, don't take this for granted. Once again, I'm telling you, it will confuse you. So be very careful with respect to the terminology. Very, very careful. Because these are basics. If you make mistakes in basics, then the first impression which is on you, it will be like very bad, right? When you go and talk to someone or talk about these concepts. Okay, when you take Excel, you have these numbers, right? You have these. Now these are called rows. Wherever you are seeing the numbers 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 like this, these are all called rows. And wherever you are seeing ABC, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, everything, these are called columns, right? Whenever you talk about a table, so this is about Excel in general. When you talk about tables, tables have two components. The first component is called header, second component is called data. So let me give you an example. What is header and what is data? I will say region and then I will say sales. North, south, east, west. Sales 10, 20, 10, 20, 30, 40. Now, when I format something like this, so what I did, I selected this, I bolded it and I centered them. So I can align them properly like this. I aligned them and I selected this entire thing and I added borders. Now, when you look at this might look like a table for all of you. But actually speaking, in Excel terminology, this is not a table. This is called range. So anything you write. So for example, this one, all these are called ranges. Range means what? Range means group of cells. Group of cells which have information, something like that you can say in layman terms. So group of cells which have information, that is called a range. Now when you talk about tables, how do you convert a range to a table? Table is different. It may look same, but both are different. So to convert a range into a table in Excel, what you have to do is you have to select this one, you have to select your range, go to insert, and here you have table. So those of you who are using pivot table is a different concept and table is a different concept. So don't get confused between both. So you have to convert to a table. Now the shortcut key for this is Control T. So I'm selecting table. Now it has asked me, hey, your table has headers or not? And this is the range. Now what is a header and what is data? Whenever you have headings like this is called header. This is header. Whatever data you have, that is the data. So header, and this is the data. So always the first row will be headers, the rest of it will be data. So right now when I select my range, go to insert and say table, it is asking me, does my table have headers? The answer is yes. Region and sales, these are called headers, and I'll click OK. Now suddenly the color got changed. You may So my color got changed. So here what happened, because my color got changed, I can identify that this is a table. On the top, if you see, there is a new tab called table design. So for example, if I keep my cell somewhere like this, so here you have home, insert, page layout, formulas on the top, you have different menus. And the last one is called help. Now it depends on the Excel version you are using. For different people, this might appear in different ways. Now, the minute I select it on the table, this new tab came into picture. This new tab called table design. So whenever there is a table, this tab will appear on the top. So wherever I put my cursor, nothing is there. Everywhere help is there. The minute I put my cursor here on the table, I can see something called table design. And here I have a lot of new options. So if you are confused whether something is a range or a table, whenever you place your cursor somewhere, and if it shows something called table design, that means that is table, that is part of a table. So anywhere you keep it, you will get the table icon, the table ribbon. Now every table will have a name. In this case, what I will do is I'll put my cursor somewhere, go to table design, and I'll name this table as sales table. Sales table, and I'll click OK. So the minute I say this, what will happen is this table will be called as sales table. So before I proceed further, I want you guys to do the same. So you can just type some dummy data here and then you can convert it to a table. And once you are done, just type it in the chat box that you are done. No, the course will not cover VBA, but I'll just cover like how to record a macro. That's it. I'll not go deep into it because VBA is not really relevant. Power Query, Power Pivot, those are more relevant. In real life, you'll not really come across any situation where you'll not be able to do something using the Power Query. Okay, great. Yeah, what about others? Is everyone done?
I think yes.
Okay. Now some of you might be wondering, uh, I mean, why do we have to convert this? Because this is a common question which people have. When I first learned this concept, just give me a moment. Yeah, when I first learned this concept, I wondered, like both are looking same, only color has changed. Why should I convert a range to a table? Now there are certain advantages, which I'll show you just now. Okay. Okay. So for example, typically in Excel, what happens is, now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this and paste this as values. So somewhere in the bottom, I'm pasting with some gap. So this is a range. So again, I'm just doing the same thing which I have done before. Now this is a range which doesn't have any color. This is the table. Now let me tell you how this is different. Now let's say I want to know what are my total sales. So I will go here. I will say sum of, and I'll select all these four cells and click enter. So I got my sum of sales. Typically in Excel, we use this reference. So what is this reference? A1, C4, Z7. So this is how we refer to cells. So how do we refer? Very simple. If I put my cursor here, so on the top you have F, here you have 26. So this cell is called F26. Let's say if I put my cursor here, on the top you have I, on the left side you have 31. So this cell is called I31 cell. So how we refer to cells in Excel is, we go with RC reference, means rows and column reference. We'll identify what is the column, and then we'll identify what is the row, and then we finally refer to that particular cell. For example, if I say cell A3, so I'll go to the top, this is A and this is 3. So this is A3. This will be the A3 cell. So that's how we refer to the cells in Excel. And similarly, when we use any formulas, we try to select those cells which are relevant to the formula. And all these references are using RC concept, right? RC concept means rows and columns. So C is the name of the column. So whenever you are seeing alphabets, that is column. And this one is the row. Rows are always numbers. So just keep that in mind. So column name, row name. So this is the starting number. Then again you have column name, row name, row number basically. So that is how you refer cells. And this is how majority of the people are used to, right? Now imagine someone with 10 years of experience in accounting or finance or some field where every day they keep using Excel. This is how our mind will get framed when you use Excel. So everybody will refer to cells in this manner and people are used to it. Now, if you are a fresher, if you never used Excel before, okay, that is fine. But think about someone who is a working professional who has been using this concept for the last 10 years. It becomes a habit. But unfortunately, the way we refer to cells like this is not used in any programming language or in any other language for that matter. And in fact, if you ask me, this is actually a very bad way of referring to any cell because except Excel, there is no other tool where we refer something with rows and columns. For example, you take SQL, you take DAX, you take Power Query, okay? You take LOD. So in Tableau, there is a concept called LOD. You take Power Apps, you take Power Automate, you take any technology. In none of these technologies, you use a cell and column reference. Not a single technology, you will find this. So it is not a good practice going forward to use these cell references because you have to upgrade your thinking. And that is the entire point of putting Excel in this course. The entire point of putting Excel, because instead of directly introducing to Power BI or SQL and making you feel like you are learning something new, I want to slowly take you from Excel into SQL, then slowly into Power BI. That is the entire idea. So the most important thing you have to remember during the first 4 or 5 classes is you have to change the way you are going to use Excel going forward. So whatever I'm going to teach you, you should start adopting that ASAP in your work life. Those who are working. So how do you refer to cells? If this is not the way to refer, then what is a better way? The better way to refer to cells is table name followed by column name. So what do I mean by table and column reference? So here we are talking about row plus column reference versus table plus column reference. That is what we are trying to differentiate here, right? Row plus column reference versus table plus column reference. This is row plus column. Now, what is table and column reference? I'll show you. I'll give you a demo right now. So this is the table. I gave a name to the table. I'm putting my cursor. I'm going to the table design and I saw the table name which I have given is sales table. Whenever you are giving a table name, there are two things to remember. First, you cannot use spaces or any special symbols when you are giving a table name. Second thing is your table name cannot start with a number. It should always start with an alphabet. Later, you can put any number you want, but a table name itself cannot start with a number. That's very important thing to remember. So you can give any name you want to the table, but there should not be spaces or special characters, and it should not start with a number. These are the two rules you have to remember. Now what I will do is, if I want to make a sum, so here what I did, I said sum equal to, and then I selected all my cells. For table, you don't need to do that. So watch what happens. I'll just sum off. What is my table? My table name is sales table. So after sales table, I'll put a square bracket. So once I put a square bracket, then it will automatically show me all the columns which I have. What are the columns which I have? Region and sales. Already it has listed both of them. So what I want to do the sum? Obviously, I don't want to do the sum of region because it doesn't make any sense. I want to do the sum of sales. And then I'll close the square bracket and I'll close the curved bracket and I'll click OK. Now I got the same result here also, right? So here what you are using column name and row number. This is how you are referring to the cells here. This is the column name and this is the row number. But here what you are doing, you are referring to the table name followed by the column name. And then you are saying sum of cells. So if you look at DAX or anything in Power BI or SQL, this is how you are going to refer to anything going forward. This is how it works in all the other languages. So that's why it is important to change your thought process. So you can also try it on your end. Once you're done, please let me know. Okay. Okay, fine. So what we'll do now is I'll show you the advantage of having a table here. So I'll open a new tab. Okay, I'm opening a new tab. I'm going to copy this table and I'm going to paste it. Just give me a moment. Yeah, so I copied and pasted my table in a new tab. Now when I go to table design, what happens is automatically it says sales table followed by a number. So what I will do is I'll say chart table. I'm just renaming it to differentiate. So I'll say this is chart table. Now I'll copy the same table and I'll do the same thing. I'll paste it as values and then I will put all my borders like this. Same thing which I did earlier. Now I'll show you what is the advantage of tables. Why you should use tables. So one advantage which I told you is you can start using table and column reference, which will help you to change your thought process. That is one advantage. What are the other advantages? Now you'll see. Now observe this carefully. I copied this table, named it as charts table just for differentiation. And here you have values. This is a range and this is a table. Same concept, just like before. I just copy pasted so that you will understand the difference. Now what I'll do is I want to insert a chart, perhaps a pie chart. So what I'll do is I'll select my table. I'll go to insert and here in the insert I have charts. So depending on the version of Excel you're using, it differs. So where this lies. So here I will go with pie chart. So I'll just resize this one properly. And here I will just select and remove the heading so that it's visible properly. And this also I'll just make it small. So this is my chart, right? Now the same thing I'll do here also. I'll select this, go to insert, and I'll insert another pie chart. And I'll delete this. Now watch what will happen. Again, it depends on which version of Excel you're using. So here what I will do is I'll say Northeast. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a new record here. I will say Northeast and then I will say 50. So automatically what happened? A new color got added and in the legend also I saw Northeast. In the range also I'll do the same thing. I'll say Northeast and I'll say 50. Now you see what happened. Even though I added Northeast here, still this chart is showing only 4 values. So it is not automatically getting updated. But in table, you see what happened. Automatically, when I entered Northeast, the table got extended, the color also got extended, and this value automatically got added into the chart. So what you have done is small automation kind of thing. So typically what happens, people try to create charts, then the new data comes in, and then they manually again select the chart. Manually, you have to drag like this to include that new value. Now, when you use tables, this is automatically done. You don't need to do anything. So for example, I'll say Northwest. I'll say 100. Automatically Northwest got added to my chart. But here if I try to add Northwest again, Northwest 100, again I have to go back and do manually. I have to go and drag and make it big, otherwise it will not work. So one thing about charts is your references will sorry, about tables is your references will change. Second thing is you are making your life easy by automating things. You're automating your charts, you're automating your values also. So for example, if I go back, so here I showed you an automation case of a chart, how your charts are getting automated. Now let me show you the automation in case of sum also. So again, it depends on the version of Excel you're using. In some Excels, it is automated. In some Excel versions, in some it is not. So here I will select, so here I will say Northeast and I will say 50. So what happened? As soon as I said 50, it has given me a warning. So what is the warning? It is saying that formula is omitting the adjacent cells. Only thing it has done is, it has given me a warning that some of my cells are missing. So it is intelligent enough to know that few cells I have missed it. So I have added formula till here. Now I'll do the same thing here. I will say northeast and then I will say 50. Automatically the total got updated here. Here also the things are getting, again I will say northwest. I'll add 100. Automatically it got 250. But here, even if I add northwest and if I say 100, nothing is happening here. So what you are doing by creating tables is you are changing your reference style. Second thing is you are also automating your life. So you don't need to worry. Whenever you add a new record, you don't need to drag your formulas. Traditionally, if you use formulas, every time new cells get added, you have to drag like this. You have to keep dragging. So what people generally do is they'll select the entire column like this to avoid that. But when it comes, then what will happen? Your Excel will slow down. If you're selecting your entire column, you're selecting like 10 million rows, then your Excel performance will go down. So rather than going in an inefficient way, if you use tables, you're automating your process and you're doing it efficiently. So let's say I created a new sheet and I want to know the sum of my sales in both the tables. I don't need to remember, hey, which cell is this? So if I do it traditionally, then I have to say sum, then I have to go back to my previous sheet. Again, I have to select all of this and say, okay. Then only I'll be able to get the value. But because I have tables, I'll simply say sum of sales table. Then I'll select my sales region and I'll click OK. I don't need to remember my references because I know that my table name. Any cell I can go anywhere. Similarly, here I can say sum of charts table and then I will say sales and I'll click OK. Now I got my total. I don't have to remember which cell is it. Should I drag and drop it? Should I increase the range of the drag? Did the new data come? I don't need to worry about any of that. So that is the advantage. And one more advantage of this is I already gave you two advantages, references and automation. And yet another advantage of using tables is you can, without copying the table, you can refer to the table. So what do I mean by that? So this feature is only available in Office 2019 and above and above. So if you are using 2016 or 2013, it is not available, but still nonetheless, I'm not sure, maybe it may work for you. I'm not sure, maybe because of some updates, but you can refer to your tables anywhere. So for example, I want to refer to my sales table. So what happens? The entire duplicate copy of my sales table is here. So I don't need to copy paste it again. So for example, if I want to reuse this table somewhere, so if you want to reuse a range, you have to copy this and then you have to paste it and then you have to reuse. Or you can also do one thing. You can give a reference cell like this and then you have to copy. But the issue with this is if any new records get added, again you have to drag and drop the formulas like this. But when it comes to table, you can directly refer. So I'll say sales table, then I'll put my brackets like this. Then I say all and I got my entire table. Let's say I don't want everything. I want only my headers. If I put headers, only my headers are there. Let's say I want only data, no headers. If I select data, only data will come. Let's say if I want only a particular row. So for example, a particular region or a particular row, if I want, I can select that also. So I'll show that little later. So let's say if I want totals, right? Totals, how will I get? Very simple. I'll select my sales. I got my entire sales data like an array. Now if I want total, I will say sum of and I will say this, I'll get my sum. Let's say if I want average, I will say average, that will also work. Anything I want, it will work. Now, the reason why I'm showing this because not only you can give a different kind of reference, but also you can give easy reference. It's very easy for you to refer to any part of the table in any sheet of your Excel. So it makes your life easy. So you don't have to worry about duplicating something, dragging and dropping dragging your rows that new data comes in. Everything is automated. So you can also try this one, the charts one. So take 5 minutes of time. So you also try to experiment with this and then we'll continue. And one more thing which I want to tell you guys is, whenever you want anything to refer to any concept, always go ahead and refer to the Microsoft official documentation. So if you want to refer to this concept, you can say Excel tables and Microsoft. If you say, the first link you will get is Excel tables. So the reason why I tell this, because Microsoft keeps updating their documentation. So what you see today, and if you open probably after 1 month, you will find something new always. So that is how active Microsoft is with respect to updating their documentation. So typically what happens is people want to refer to some PPTs and other stuff, which is fine, but I always recommend you to refer to the official sources, because what happens is there are different versions of Excel, and different versions of Excel will have different functionalities. There will be different looks or different customizations which are available. So what you may see in one version of Excel may not match with the other version of Excel. So it is always, that's why recommended that whenever you want to refer to any concepts related to Power BI or Excel or anything, always go ahead with the official documentation, because in the official documentation, you'll have everything neatly organized. So whatever topics, for example, what is a header? So similarly, we are talking about the total row, how to calculate the total. Similarly, how to create a table, everything is already mentioned here. So everything is covered. So whatever you want to learn about tables. So it is not just about tables concept, whether you want to learn about charts, references, cell by cell reference, or rows and tables and column reference, whatever it is, always go with Microsoft documentation, because that is the standard source. Okay. So if we go back, let's continue the topic. So what I will do right now is I'll copy this one. I'll copy the table and then I'll paste it again. I'll change the name, and here I will say uh, sales table CALC calculation. So I'm just putting a shortcut CALC. You can put anything you want for the table. I just copied this table and kept it somewhere. And now I'll say discounts. I'm adding one more column. So I'll simply put some random values here like this. Or I can do one thing. I will say the discounts are, I will say discount rate. So I'll put some percentage. So this is discount rate, and I will say discount amount here. Okay. So what I did was region and sales is common. I just copied it here. Then I added a column called discount rate. Now I added another column, another name I added here, which is discount amount. Okay. Now I want to know what is the total discount amount for each of these regions. So already percentage is given. I will say equal to, and I'll multiply this. So as you can see, when I'm multiplying, it is giving at the rate. Why is it giving at the rate? At the rate refers to the current column, or the current row. For example, earlier, if you see, when I said sales table, and here it has at the rate this row, it has. So the at the rate symbol means you are referring to the corresponding row. So everywhere it looks the same. Generally, when you apply a formula, for example, let's say in this case, if you apply a formula, what happens? Let's say if I'm trying to multiply this by 1, I'm just showing an example. So every time it changes, C31, C32, C34, 35, 36, like that. But here in this case, you might have observed, you might be suppressed. There are no numbers. It simply says at the rate sales, at the rate discount rate. So at the rate means you are referring to the current row. So at the rate, everywhere at the rate. You are no longer referring to anything with number. So that is what this at the rate symbol means here. Now, when you talk about a reference like this, once you enter a formula, so for example, let me delete everything. Once I enter a formula here in one of the columns, in one of the rows, automatically it gets copied to rest of the columns. Sorry, rest of the rows. Now let's say tomorrow if I have a new region, Southeast, and if I add 100 and maybe 5% discount, you don't have to drag your formula. Automatically it got dragged. Automatically it is calculating. So even when you are using formulas also, everything is automated. Now let's say I want to get the total. So if I go to table design, there is something called total row. If I click on total row, it is giving me this one. So just observe this. This is total row. If I want to highlight my first column, I will highlight by clicking first. If I want banded columns, it will give me that banded effect. Banded rows I'll remove. I'll put banded columns like this. So it will come like this. So you can have banded rows or banded columns. Let's say if you want to highlight the last column, so you can select this one. Filter button you don't want. If you do this, the filter button will be gone. This is filter button where you can select this one. You can remove that one as well. So the point of tables is it is very easy for you to customize it. If you want to calculate total, so let's say in this case, you want to find out the total in a range. This is the range. So what you will do, you will say sum of this. Now let's say you want to enter a new record here. So when you want to enter a new record, again you have to go and insert a new row, and again you will say southeast. Again you will say southeast, and then you'll click on one of the values, and then your value will come finally. But however, when it comes to table, you don't need to do that. What I will do is I'll select the table. I'll go to table design and say total. My total is here. Now what I need to do is, if I want to add a new row, I don't need to go and insert it. I'll just go to the rightmost cell here. The rightmost cell is this one. And I'll click on tab on my keyboard. I will say tab. Then what happens? My total column automatically it got shifted. Now I'll say southwest 52%. Automatically my total got updated. My formula also got updated. Now this is not possible if you are trying to do it with a range. You have to go here and insert a, sorry, you have to go here and insert a new row. Then only you can insert something here. Otherwise you cannot do it. But here in the table, you have to go to the rightmost tab, the bottommost one, excluding the total column, and you need to click on tab key. Then automatically something gets added in between. So what is happening here is you are able to find out the total. If you don't want total, you can remove it. Let's say you want to find out the average. So instead of total, let's say you want standard deviation. Sorry, just give me a moment, not here. You select this one and you say standard deviation. So standard deviation, count, average. These are all built-in functions, minimum, maximum. More functions also you can use. Here you'll have more things. So here you can change the label. If you don't want total, you can simply say average, whatever you are using, you can select that particular one, or you can delete also. Nothing, I mean, no issues with that. But the point is, you look at the built-in functionality which is given. You don't have to put any formula also. Just you go to table design and select whatever you want, and it gets automatically added. So that is about the tables. So you also do it from your end and let me know if you have any questions.
Sanjay, just one question. You use the option from the table like total one, right? It just calculated discount amount, but didn't calculated the sales one.
You can do it. So for example, here I will go and I will say, I want some, it will calculate.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah. So going forward, try to use this concept as much as possible whenever you're using Excel. No longer refer to row and cell reference, row and column reference. Try to use tables, try to automate your processes.
Sanjay, just one more point. The previous one which you use, right, to copy a whole table where you use that equal to table name and in bracket you type as all, right? Can you go back to that one?
Okay. Yes.
No, not this one where you are copying the whole table.
Yeah. So this one, right?
Yes.
So what I did was, let's say you want to refer to a table, the entire table you want to bring it somewhere.
Hmm.
So you'll select the table name. I mean, you'll write the table name and then you'll say all. The entire duplicate copy of the table will come here.
Yeah, I'm trying to do that, but it says it throws me an error.
So if you are using the older version of Excel, try Control Shift Enter.
Okay.
So
After
once after you see, you type the name, automatically it gives you the prediction. Then
yes,
you say all and
yes.
close the square bracket and say
Hmm.
Control Shift Enter.
Okay, let me try.
I think it will work. Try it now
Yeah, just give me this.
in older versions.
It is just giving one value only to me.
So which version of Excel you are using?
It's, I think 19 only.
2019, maybe I think some update, maybe another version, I guess, because in 360 Office 365 and 2021 definitely it works. In 2019, maybe after certain updates they might have pushed it. That's what I feel.
Okay, let me do later on.
Yeah.
Then I try it.
Okay, any doubts? Related to tables?
Sanjay, can you go to the final table, please?
Yeah, just give me a moment. Let me reshare my screen. Yeah,
The total you have done, right? The total here, 400.
yeah.
All these ones, we need to do individual rows, right? Or individual columns, I mean to say.
Yeah. So you go here and select the sum.
Okay, so individually column, we need to select it. Okay, understood.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, I will take another another 3 minutes. One more concept which I want to last concept this is let's say you want to let's say you have some repeating. Let me remove the total here. I'm removing the total. Let me add some duplicate values like north, south. So till now we have dealt with unique values. So, okay, till now we dealt with unique values. Now you have some duplicates here. Like north is coming 2 times, south is coming 2 times. So most of you know like how to summarize it is through pivot tables that I'll cover in tomorrow's class. But let's say you want to filter out. Let's say you want to filter out the north region or south region. So north has 2 entries. This is one entry, this is another entry. Now you want to filter it. So one way to filter is you select this one, uncheck everything and say north and click OK. This is one way. The second way what you can do is you can insert a slicer. So if you select any cell in the table and go to table design, and here you have something called insert slicer. You click on insert slicer and then say region and click OK. You get a slicer like this. So what you can simply do is, let's say if you want to see the north. So you select the north, automatically it gets filtered. East, northwest, northeast, south, southwest. So south also it has 2 entries, north has 2 entries. So automatically you can see it got aligned. Now, if you talk about table, so let me add a total row. Now here you need to observe something which is important. So generally what happens is when you use the total column. Now, what is the difference between using a table and using a range? Like how does it differ? So for example, if I select something like this, here if I select, you have to go and manually do it. But let's say if you have multiple columns where you want to apply filters, then adding a slicer will make it more easy. It is very similar to pivot tables, which you might have already used. So in pivot tables, people use slicers. So this is not a pivot table. This is just a table, but still you can use slicer. And slicer, you can always customize it. So if you want to change the color, you can change it. Table also, you can do the same thing. You can go to table design and change the color of the table, customize it in whatever way you want. So here I am selecting 2 columns. So I went to slicer and made it 2 columns, and I can easily filter and see what all things are there here. So that is something which comes extra with table. You can't add a slicer for a range. So if you have a range data like this, you cannot do it. So this is only possible in tables once again. So another advantage, if I have to add you can add slicers to your tables. So references, automatic references, then easy reference, like it will automatically show you the formulas and everything easily. And also you can replicate the entire table, either headers or rows, some specific element you can take, and you can also add slicers. So that is the advantage of tables.
Hey, can you please show me how add you slicer?
Okay, select a cell somewhere in your table, any place where the table design is there. So select somewhere, go to table design and say insert slicer on the top of the ribbon.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Sanjay, are you speaking something?
No, I'm not speaking anything.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, guys, only that's about today's class. It's about tables. Tomorrow, I will probably cover pivot tables, and then day after tomorrow, we'll cover charts. And then on Thursday and Friday, we'll further few more concepts I'll cover related to Excel, and then we'll close Excel topic by Friday. So these are all small concepts, but also very, very important. So make sure you practice, get used to them. And from coming Monday onwards, we'll start with SQL, right?
Yes. Hello, Sanjay. I want to ask one more thing.
Okay.
I'm very new to Excel, and I want to learn this all from the basics. From where should I learn?
See, one thing I can tell you is once you attend these 7 classes, you will have a basic understanding. Then probably then you can go to YouTube, you can go to different sources and you can cover, but the core concepts will be covered in this only because so some of you might be assuming that once Friday is over, Excel is over. That's what you might be thinking. But the truth is when I cover Power BI, lot of concepts in Power BI will overlap with Excel.
Okay. Okay.
So almost you'll be learning a lot of new things on Excel, not just until this Friday. Once Power BI starts, there are additional concepts you'll be learning, which can be applied on Excel also. So you don't have to
Sanjay,
worry about it. Hello? Yeah, hello?
Hello, Sanjay. When